Our first challenger has been a Toastmaster since 2005. She's doing the Icebreaker project from the Pathways program, where her path is presentation mastery. And over the next 4 to 6 minutes, she's going to discuss whether she wants to write a book with her speech title, To Write or Not to Write. That is the question, of course. Please welcome our newest Pathways DTM, by the way, recipient, Roz Carter.
Thank you, Toastmaster Werner. Wow. I did not want to make that mistake calling you Madam Toastmaster, so I will change it to Toastmaster Werner. How about that? To write or not to write? That is the question. For me, at least, many of you have heard me say, I'm going to write a book. And it all started 17 years ago when Taya found me as her birth mom. And what a delightful journey that has been. We've traveled, we've done many things worth writing about. And that was my intent. And then just 1 year ago, or 11 months ago, that we started a podcast. And our new episode is airing today. Would you believe that we are telling stories through the podcast about our journey? The same journey that I intended to write a book about called I Found Her. But through the podcast and the transcripts that I receive after each episode, I find that, oh, sure, I could write a book. I could use the transcripts as my starting point to help write. Some of you may know Dr. Lowana wrote a book about her blogs. And she said she gathered all of the blogs that she had written and wrote a book called 31 Days of Blogging. I will ask you to check that out. Now, some of you blog. I don't know how many of you have a podcast, but my podcast is so enjoyable, and I want to extend that story through a book, or so I thought. A few weeks ago, I started saying to myself, do I really need to write a book? I've got the podcast. I've got speeches that I could give in Toastmasters. I could tell my story anytime. So why would I want to write a book? So I asked those of you who have written a book, how does it feel? Did you feel like you accomplished something? Was it worth the effort? Do you think that maybe you didn't have to write it after all? And that's where my challenge is. I'd like to invite all of you to think about this. Would you want to write a book? Would you think that it's too much work, too much effort? Why would I want to come up with something that I could just tell a story about instead of putting it in writing and crafting it around the contents of a book with the opening, all the chapters, and some kind of conclusion that makes the story well written? I've read lots of books, and I enjoy it actually, because the story that people are telling, it's encompassing a life journey. It's encompassing some struggles. And I think about, what did it take for those who have written a book? How did you craft it? How did you put it together? Was it difficult to get all of your thoughts on paper so that you could look around at your friends and perhaps new friends who read your book and say, yes, I'm glad I wrote that book because it touched this person and this person and this person. And I did not know that it would do that. I thought I was just telling my story. But was I doing it for me or was I doing it for the reader? The reader has to be the main focus of why you write a book. It's usually not about yourself, even though you're writing about yourself. You want to touch the lives of others through your book so that they can then say, oh, I really enjoyed that book, and I'm going to tell my family and friends about it. Wouldn't you like them to share your book with their friends so that now you have more readers? But the podcast, I feel, does that as well. Maybe it doesn't have a far reaching audience as a book might have, but I still think it reaches a lot of people that are interested in hearing the stories through the podcast. So I am self fulfilled in more ways than one because the podcast is telling the story. Do I feel like I might be repeating myself from the podcast to the book if I use those transcripts? What do you think I should do? Or if you were in my shoes, what would you do? Would you write or not write and continue just telling the story through a podcast, through speeches, and maybe still reach a significant audience? My question is on the table, my challenge. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Roz Carter.